Hello, welcome to the Elevate Your Wellbeing podcast. We are on episode 29. How exciting! It is the 16th of June. We have a new moon in Gemini in a couple of days. So inviting how you can slow down, but also honoring how you can communicate this. And sometimes that might be through yourself with how you're reflecting and journaling. So we're going to dive into that a little bit this week. I'm just kind of rolling off of what we were talking about last week and expanding into a tool. So this can be a coaching tool that you can use, whether that's running your business or you do this at home. Really, really helpful. So make sure that you have some water, grab your journal, and let's have a little reflect. So your prompt last week was, where do you place yourself on the to-do list? So are you even on your to-do list? Are you that much of a priority or not? You need to be on the to-do list. You cannot burn yourself out. And I even made a quote because I was quite proud of myself of what I said last week. You give your best self when you feel like your best self. You give your best self when you feel like your best self. If you're not on that to-do list, if you're not making yourself a priority, how can I do something for me? You are not going to be giving your best. This is why it's essential for you to take care of yourself. That is what I'm here to help you do. That's what I'm here to help keep you accountable. And if you're doing that, awesome. If you need some extra help, that's why I come in as a coach. But I'm going to give you one of my methods today. Now, I am pretty sure I have mentioned this on a previous episode, but I'm going to be expanding on it a little bit more. So having a to-do list is helpful because otherwise, if you're chasing your tail, it's like, I've got all these things to do. What's actually important though? What is actually important? So I want you to grab your journal, because this is actually going to be a proactive podcast episode where we're going to be journaling together throughout the whole episode. And you're not just going to have a prompt at the end. You're going to have a prompt, which I'm going to leave you with, but you're going to be noting down things as you go. So open up your journal. If you don't want to do this in your journal, I can understand, because sometimes journals feel a bit more sacred than a to-do list. So I completely understand that. Or the thought of ripping a page out just makes you like shudder. Then just go grab a piece of paper. You might even do this on your computer if you are at home and you're doing this, if you're listening to this on a computer. Just pull up a blank page or like a blank Word document and make a note of everything you have to do. Everything you have to do. So you can pause this podcast because you're probably going to have about a million things on there. So start writing out all the things you have to do on your to-do list, whether that's for today, whether that's for this week, whether that's for this month, whether that's for the next 90 days, then for the next few months. If there's something bigger on there, bigger projects, you might write that on there as well, just so you have it noted. So have a little pause of the podcast and get noting down those things right now. Okay, did you pause it? If not, pause this podcast episode right now. Go and make the list. Do it. Do it, do it, do it, do it. Okay, so now you've come back in, you should have a list of a fair few things that was on your to-do list. So this, like I said, it might be things that you do every single day, things you feel you should do every single day, for things you feel that you need to do, things that you want to do every single day. It could be different things during your week. So this can really be useful for your lifestyle audit as well. If you haven't done one of those, I really highly recommend doing them. If you would like to have a go with one of those, tag me that you're listening to this episode, and I will send you a little free resource so you can do a lifestyle audit on your own. Or if you would like a bit more help with that, book your one-on-one coaching with me. So you do have a list of multiple things that you're doing every day, every week, every month, because you've paused this episode and you have written that out. And then I want you to highlight, especially with the daily, highlight what is important. What are those lists? What tasks on that list is actually important? And you don't even need to pause this episode to do that. I would literally, and you can take a different color pen if that's how you like working, which is how I like to work. You can take a different color pen and literally circle or underline or highlight those things that actually are important. And then from there, this is where we're going to go into the 3D method. So what's actually important? So you've highlighted what's important. So hopefully the rest of it can be ditched within reason. So you might be like, well, I've got yoga on here that I do once a week. I haven't circled it. So maybe your priorities aren't right. So highlight that as that's important for you, for your mental well-being. It might be that you split up lists. If you constantly come back to this, which is a good way to do it, you could have a list for home stuff, family stuff, work stuff, well-being stuff, what's actually important. But look at it as a whole to see where you're going out of imbalance with your life. So if have you highlighted loads of things that's all to do with work, probably some home stuff, family stuff, and then you haven't highlighted anything that's to do with your health and well-being? Have I just called you out? So notice what you can ditch. What can you delete? What can you get rid of? That's your first D of your 3D method. What can you ditch? What can you get rid of? So ditch or delete. And you might kind of think, oh, wow, that I really need to reframe my mind with what I'm working on, because I'm not highlighting what is actually important. Now, this is where the other 2D method comes in. So you've had your first one, ditching or deleting. What on the list could actually be delayed? And this could even be the things you've highlighted, because sometimes it's what we feel we should be focusing on doing or getting done. But actually, what out of what you have listed and what out of what you have highlighted can be ditched or deleted? And then what can be delayed? What out of the list, the whole list, or stuff that you've highlighted, what could be delayed? Is it actually important today to do? Does it need doing today? Now, out of the first two, and you might want to pause this one if you feel you need time to reflect. But out of those first two, if you've looked at the list and you're like, I don't think I can delete or ditch anything, it needs to be done. I don't think I can delay anything, it needs to be done. But do you need to do it? Emphasis on the you. Are you the person that needs to do it? Or can it be delegated? Can you pass it over to someone else who could do the job for you? Notice your response to that. So sometimes, and I highlighted this on last week's episode with asking for help, was one of the things that you could do that helps you stop burning out, helps support you. But if you're not doing it, sometimes we don't like to be seen that we're asking for help. And here's the thing, no one is coming to save you unless you ask for the help. No one is coming to save you. No one is willingly out there looking for you to save you unless you ask for that help, which is delegating. So if you're in that mentality of, oh, it'd be so nice to have someone to help me here, or it'd be so nice to have, be rescued here, ask for it, delegate it, pass it on to someone else. Now, if you are also in that response of, but they won't be able to do it as well as I can, you need to delegate it. You need to delegate it, because things can't be done perfectly, and we have to be okay with that. And that can come from a traumatic response of needing to be perfect, needing to do everything, needing to have that control over everything. And that is not healthy. It's not good for you mentally or physically. So delay it, but set in some ground rules. So if you're like, well, sorry, not delay it, delegate it. Set in some ground rules. So if you're passing this on to someone in your family or your children, that you have this expectation of what to do, set out the rules. So if it's to do something for dinner, write out the recipe. If it's to do a particular task in a particular way, so they should have this end result, do it. But don't be micromanaging them, because otherwise you're wasting your time. There's no point in you delegating it. But it also helps that people can learn what you're doing. You can train them in that way, and then you can spend your time better elsewhere on what you've highlighted. What on this list is important? What on this list actually needs doing? What on this list can only you do? And there are only certain things that only you can do. Only you can do your well-being, for example. You can't delegate that. You really can't ditch it, because you will feel the effect of delegating and ditching or delaying your well-being. That should be on the top of the list. So like I asked you last week, where do you place yourself on the to-do list? You should be on that to-do list every single day, even if it's in a small capacity. It doesn't have to be a huge thing that you're doing every single day. And that's where the 1% method comes in. But how well can you do this? Now, this can be a lot of work if it's completely new to you. If you're used to taking on everything, and this comes back to what I was speaking about in episode 27, the anti-hustle culture. You might be like, oh, I don't hustle. And then when you look at everything that's on your to-do list, you suddenly realize, oh, that's what Rachael meant by hustle culture. I'm doing everything. So if you haven't already, do go through. So again, I'm going to keep this one nice and short and sweet. Go through your to-do list. Highlight what's important on that to-do list. Highlight what you can delete or ditch, what isn't actually needed. Now, you might not have highlighted that, so that might be easier to filter out. Out of everything on the list, what can you delay or delegate? Doesn't need to be done today. And that's again what I highlighted last week. Sometimes there are things that's okay to leave till tomorrow. It doesn't need to be done today. And what can you pass on to someone else to do instead of you? This can be sometimes where we have expectations from others to do things because they think we can, but we haven't set that boundary of, I'm not available to do that. So this is something we can dive into a lot more when we're in a coaching session. Like I said, we have 90 minutes for our first one. And then if you continue for either 3 months or 6 months, and you can keep adding on. So you could do 3 months and then think, actually, no, I want 6 months. So you add on another 3 months. It can roll and roll and roll. You could do 6 months and think, actually, I want this for a whole year. And you could add another 6-month package on. Those packages, you get to have a one-to-one with me every single week for an hour. And there is availability in between as well. So, you know, it's having that support and accountability to call you out. You know, if I can see in you what I was doing and I can highlight that, so I can help go, this is what I was doing and this is where it led me. Don't let that be your mistake. This is what we can do. This is something that you could ditch or delay or delegate, and I can help keep you accountable with that. And that's how coaching can be really, really powerful. So do really go through and then highlight it every time something new lands on your desk, or highlight it when anyone asks you, can you do that? Or highlight it when you think in your mind, oh, I need to do this. And you're like, actually, can I delete it? Can I delay it? Can I delegate it? And suddenly it can feel very, very powerful with taking back that control in your life, setting those boundaries, setting those expectations, investing in yourself, getting your well-being on the top of that to-do list, and finally letting go of that hustle culture. If you have got any questions with what I've mentioned in this week's episode, do contact me. All the details are in the show notes, and I will look forward to joining you next week.